Hi, I'm Robin Harris. I'm an ethnomusicologist and I study Siberian musics. And today I have with me Sean Quirk, who is the manager of the Tuvan ensemble group, Alash. Sean, tell us a little bit about Alash.
Alash was started in 1999 at the Kazil College of the Arts by a number of young Tuvan musicians who were all entering the first course there, who shared a interest and passion for Tuvan music, for traditional Tuvan music, following the example of Tuvan bands which had started to become successful at that time, such as Hunhur 2 and the Tuvan ensemble, and they were representing a younger generation of people who had already felt the effects of those bands, and some of them were students of the famous Tuvan musician Kongarol Andar. Others of them were basically self-taught musicians, and at the beginning there was a lot of guys in the ensemble, but over the years the ones who were less serious kind of winnowed themselves out, and by the time they graduated we were left with the four members that we have today: Mayol Sadip, Badi Dorju Andar, Ayan Olsam, and Ayan Chirjik. They put together their songs from old songs that they remember from their parents and grandparents, from traditional national songs, and the unique thing about them is that they do their own arrangements of the songs, and at the same time as they were forming their ensemble, they were also getting a classical Western musical education at the Arts College, so they were learning about lots of things from Western music, about notation and harmony and Western musical theory, the sonata form and other rounds and this kind of thing. And so they began to incorporate some of this in their own music to the point where their music is still the sound of it is very traditional, but if you listen attentively, you can see that there's this subtle development in their music involved because of their influences of hearing other Western music, and not just, of course, classical music, but things like jazz, and later on, of course, country and bluegrass, and other sorts of music. So they have a very broad musical palette, but it's certainly based on the canvas of traditional Tuvan music.
Sean, tell us about those instruments.
Well, not all of them. I should say the majority of the instruments that the band plays are traditional Tuvan instruments. The igil, of course, which is a two-stringed horse-headed fiddle, or spike fiddle as some people call it sometimes. The bazanchi, which is an instrument that has 4 strings. The bow is woven in between the strings, played in a very unique way by fingering from behind the strings. The doshpalur, of course, and the chanzi, which are Tuvan plucked instruments, nicknamed Tuvan banjos, 3-stringed instruments. All of these instruments are made of wood and skin. The bowed instruments have horsehair strings. We have a variety of wind instruments. The murgu, which is a flute with no holes, it's a fipple flute that originally was made from reeds. The limpi, which is a side-blown flute. The shor, which is a flute with holes which is blown from the top. And then, of course, some percussion. We use horse hooves, for instance. The kengirge, which is a large frame drum introduced by Tibetan Buddhists in the 17th century. It's a very nice drum. It caused future man to shed tears when he heard it. And then the shungarash, of course, which is a jingling instrument that imitates the sound of horse tackle. So these are the basic instruments. And then, of course, all of them use their voices like an instrument as well.
In what way do they use their voices?
Well, it's, as many people are familiar with, what's called in the West Tuvan throat singing, which is it's a manner of singing multiple pitches at once in a very melodious manner. And the thing is, there's not just one style of it, there's a lot of different styles, which the Tuvans actually sort of regard in the same way as they would regard a different instrument. They have different timbres and different places where they're appropriate. There's, for instance, a very pure overtone style called sagut, which is just a high whistle, and then a low rumbling sound called kargara, which also has a high overtone contained above it. They have very delicate senses of hearing, and within all of these styles there's even sub-styles. So this is one of the most brilliant things, of course, that immediately draws any listener's attention. And these guys are four of probably the best singers of their generation. And there's a lot of good individual talents out there, but in my biased opinion, they're the best who've come together as an ensemble of their generation.
So what's so unique about Alash?
Well, for one thing, it's their willingness to experiment. We've done a couple of projects on stage together with members of the Sun Ra Orchestra. I think avant-garde jazz and Tuvan traditional folk music are probably two of the last things anyone would think of combining together as a project. But the guys are just, they're like musical sponges, and they really want to be involved in as much music as they can. And every concert we've had with them actually has been jam-packed and really quite a good success. We're looking forward to doing more with them. We've collaborated with bluegrass musicians, with the Flecktones. Again, these guys, they aren't ever stopping learning is the thing. They have good roots in their traditional music, but starting from the time that they went to the arts college, they've also been absorbing other kinds of music, and they're not afraid to tactfully experiment with that. So far, we haven't done anything horribly distasteful, you know. When one experiments, one sometimes ends up with that sort of thing, but luckily these guys are they just have excellent, they're excellent musicians. They can play pretty much anything by ear, and so I think that it's their ability to incorporate these new changes without doing it in a gross, distasteful way. They're doing it in their own way. They assimilate these ideas that they listen to first. They sort of chew them up, and then they come back out in the music as almost sort of seamless parts of really development. And so to me, one of the things that makes them special is that they really symbolize sort of a positive, they're a positive incarnation of the progress that Tuvan music is making, in the sense that they're retaining their traditionality, but they're also moving in other directions, but in a considered way.
Tell me what you have coming up. You have a tour in America, I think.
Yeah, we'll be in the States in November and December. Part of it we'll be doing on our own, and part of it we'll be collaborating with, we have some dates together with the Flecktones. We recorded on their album last year, and that album is coming out this year, and so to promote that album.
Is that going to be available on your site or on the Flecktone site?
I'm sure it'll be available on the Flecktone site. I think that we also will have their albums for sale at our concerts when we go on tour.
How can listeners find your site? What's the name of your site?
It's alashensemble.com.
Okay.
Alash was taken by a political party in Kazakhstan.
What does that mean?
Well, Alash in Tuvan is the name of a river. The river Alash. It's in the northwestern part of Tuva. It's one of the most beautiful parts of Tuva. It comes down from the high mountains. The guys chose it because some of them are from that area. So it's the name of a particular territory around this river.
It's great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Looking forward very much to hearing you in America.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about Alash.